Meeting of the Valley Center City Council for October 5th, 2021 is now in session. Roll call.
Mayor Cicerillo,
Here.
Councilmember Stam,
Here.
Councilmember Evans,
Here.
Councilmember Davis,
Here.
Councilmember Anderson,
Here.
Councilmember Gregory,
Here.
Councilmember Kerstetter,
Here.
Councilmember Wilson,
Here.
Councilmember Colbert.
I'm here.
Please rise and join me for the invocation and then join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. God, thanks so much for this day, for today. Thank you for the life that you give each and every one of us. Thank you that you are the author of that life and you're the author of wisdom. And I pray that tonight that this group in here, that they would continue to possess that wisdom and that they would move swiftly through their agenda. And Lord, just thank you for putting these people in the position that they're in here to lead this city. We love you. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council, I have an add to the agenda. I'd like to add an item G under new business for an executive session to discuss non-elected personnel.
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Moving on to item 6, administrative agenda, city council meeting minutes from September 21st, 2021.
Move to approve the minutes of the September 21, 2021 regular council minutes as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you. Presentations and proclamations. Let me get to that. We have a proclamation of support of home rule. And I don't, is it in the folder? Oh, right here on top. Perfect. I don't really read these really well on the tablet, so I got a good city clerk takes care of me. Whereas on November 8th, 1960, the voters of Kansas approved a constitutional amendment granting cities home rule authority. The home rule amendment took effect in Kansas on July 1st, 1961. Home rule gives local government, specifically cities, the power to make decisions at the local level based on the unique needs and values of their residents. And whereas cities across our great state manage differing opinions and views on issues ranging from zoning to funding for local services and programs. Home rule keeps control of the community in the hands of the local residents. And whereas the home rule amendment empowers cities to determine local affairs and government actions, including the levying of taxes, fees, charges, and other exaction. And whereas the City of Valley Center and the League of Kansas Municipalities, Cities continually work to educate and engage municipal officials, the legislature, and the general public about the importance of home rule and local decision-making. And whereas the 60th anniversary of the passage of constitutional home rule is a fitting time for all municipalities to engage the residents about the Kansas Constitution and local laws, so that all Kansans may continue to receive the many benefits of home rule. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Lou Cicerillo, have hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Valley Center to be affixed this 11th day of October, 2021, and proclaim Home Rule Day in our city. All right. We are now at the public forum. This is the time in the meeting that we will allow anybody that would like to come up to speak to an item that is not on the agenda. Great, seeing none. We have no appointments. We have no committees and commissions. We'll move on to old business. Item A, ordinance 1359-21, small cell ordinance. And just in case if you haven't noticed, Mr. Clark isn't here. Hello, Mr. Clark, if you're watching.
Hello.
Well, Mr. Smith will be standing. Boy, I sure hope he's watching because we just wasted a good bit on him if he isn't.
This is the small cell ordinance that we discussed at our previous meeting regarding Cox Wireless and them allowing for cellular companies to utilize their infrastructure for their small cells for the second reading.
Questions, council? Was there not a change we wanted in this? Was that you had asked for a change? Was it your change put in it?
I was questioning a part of it, yes.
Was his? Okay. 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 Good.
That's okay.
You okay with that? Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure. I know we had discussion on it. I just want to make sure we're all aligned on it. So
I'll make a motion to approve of ordinance 1359-21, establishing small cell agreement with Cox Communication for second reading.
Second.
we have a motion to second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item B, ordinance 1360-21.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This one is just the second reading to pass the ordinance for the Uniform Public Offense Code Book. I'll stand for any questions.
Motion, council?
Make a motion to adopt
ordinance.
ordinance 1360-21, amending chapter 9.01 of the Valley Center Municipal Code and amendments thereto for second reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hands. Motion carries. Moving right along to ordinance 1361-21.
This one will be the ordinance to, second reading for the ordinance to approve the standard traffic ordinance book. Stand for any questions on that?
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 1361-21, amending chapter 10.04, section 10 of the Valley Center Municipal Code and amendments thereto related to the regulation of traffic within the corporate limits of City of Valley Center, Kansas for second reading.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hands. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on, new business item A, removal of Marquez Horse Farm PUD.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you this evening is a request from Mr. Art Marquez. He owns a section of land that is currently going through the platting process. We've approved the preliminary plat with the Planning and Zoning Board, and later this month at the October Planning and Zoning Board meeting, the area highlighted in red in my staff report, this area will receive its final plat. And this is development is being called Hidden Valley. This will create 62 new single-family residential lots for development. And prior to the final plat being approved, as well as a rezoning, currently this property is zoned A1 agricultural, and it's an agricultural district, and we'll be looking to rezone that to RR1, which are our suburban residential district to allow for the single-family homes in that type of setting. Before that can take place, administratively, we need to remove an existing planned unit development, or PUD, that is currently on this property. Mr. Marquez has supplied a request letter removing this PUD. This is just part of the standard process. Before the rezoning can take place in the final plat, we want to remove that from the existing zoning map of the city. The existing PUD is called the Marquez Horse Farm PUD. That will be removed by council accepting and filing the attached letter, what you see on the screen now.
Council, questions? Do we have a motion?
Make a motion as city staff recommend accepting and filing Mr. Marquez's request letter formally removing Marquez Horse Farm PUD from the property currently being platted as the Hidden Valley subdivision.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item B, street closure request for Trick or Treat Street.
Good evening once again. The request came in from Eric Scriven, the chamber director, but he was unavailable tonight. So I agreed to stand in for him. The request, and this is our typical Halloween trick or treat street, the request in Main Street from Meridian to Ash. There's a copy of the map there for the areas to be blocked off. This year, they're planning on going back to the walking instead of the drive-through like we did last year, which was fun, but I look forward to seeing the kids in costumes and walking around. But they're requesting this be closed from 4 to 8 p.m. on October 29th. And the event will be from 5 to 7 p.m.
Council, questions?
Motion to approve the closure of 100 to 200 West Main Street on October 29th from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. for the annual trick or treat event.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hands. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on to item C, purchasing policy approval.
Hello, Mayor and Council, once again. Tonight, we are presenting a city purchasing policy. Previously, we've always had purchasing procedures in place that staff would follow when procuring any goods, services, professional services, anything like that. But now we are presenting an official policy rather than just having those unwritten procedures. This is important for several reasons, especially when it comes to grants and grant funding. It's very important and it's required to have written purchasing policies in place that satisfy those requirements for all those grants. And with all that ARPA money coming up, this is a good time to get this approved and on the books. Through the policy, it basically outlines our general objectives, acquisitions, has some definitions. The main part here is our purchasing authorities and limits. This outlines who can spend what up to what amount and who has the authority to approve that. Basically, any employee has the authority up to $1,000, up to $5,000 as a department head, $10,000 city administrator, above $10,000 will be the governing body, which is how we've always done in the past. It's just the written form. It goes on to outline vendor selection, field bid process, how we publish for the invitation of bids, our formal bidding requirements, how we publish it on the city website in advance for everyone to receive notice for their opportunity to bid on the projects as well. It outlines emergency situations. You know, if we're working on a big project and there's a safety issue, we got to get something right away. It does give city administrator authority to go ahead and make that approval, and then we can ratify that at our next meeting. Governing body. Cooperative purchases and state bid awards. These have already gone through a very strict process, and they're available to any other taxing authority, municipality within the state. So we can just jump on those at any point in time. Saves us a lot of work on the front end for a lot of major purchases. Outlines change orders. Every change order will become to council. Once again, with that emergency situation exception in there. Professional services for engineering, architecture, IT, those kind of things. One thing I did want to notice or outline here is the local business preferences. In some purchasing policies, municipalities have a additional threshold that local vendors can basically bid over the low bid and they can still win the bid. We're recommending that threshold to be 20%. This would be anything on the lower end of that purchasing threshold. Anything over 25,000 will still come for council, go through the whole bidding process, go through the lowest bid, but anything under that, we want to stay local as much as we can. So if the local bid comes in anywhere from 0 to 20% higher than the other lowest bid, we would still go with them to keep that money here in town. other than that, it's all pretty standard. I can stand for any questions if anybody had any specifics.
Councilmember Kerstetter.
So I guess why don't we have a procedure like this or an standard operating policy like this already? Because I guess I was under the assumption, which is bad, that we already had something like this.
I mean, we have standard operating procedures. This is just the formal written policy adopted by council. I don't know if it's ever been done before.
Okay.
I couldn't find one within the past couple of years, so go ahead and revamp it, make it fresh
Okay.
to what we currently do. For
And then I have
purposes.
specific questions on section 3.5. And it probably just needs more explanation for me.
Mhm.
If it'll cooperate with it. There you go. The bottom two bullets, it says general exceptions to purchasing policy, sale of temporary notes and bonds, and then purchase of land rights, or existing real property.
Right.
So why are those exceptions?
So the sale of temporary notes and bonds, those are always going to come to council regardless.
Right.
And depending on the threshold of like cost of issuances and other fees, attorney fees and publishing fees and all that. Well, I mean, they're always going to come to council regardless. We would never issue those on our own.
Well, the way I read it is that those two bullets are excluded from this purchasing policy, or am I not reading it right?
They're excluded from the procedures that we would have to follow on a normal basis, like a sealed bid process.
Oh, okay.
Like if we issue $1 million temp note, we don't have to go out for like a sealed bid process. The
Okay.
Gilmore and Bell and Piper Sandler, they're going to handle all of that for us on their end.
Okay. All right.
And the
like-
purchase of land and land rights, I mean, those are always handled under executive sessions. We don't kind of.
Right. No, that makes sense. I guess I read it too fast and it didn't make sense when I read it the first time. So I appreciate that it wasn't in legalese terms.
Try to make it as easy as possible to read here.
Yeah. But I also like that we have something formal.
Councilmember Gregory.
I have a specific question on section 16.3, employee disclosure requirements. It says any employee or public official who knows or should have known of such benefit and fails to report such benefit is in breach of ethical standards. Who determines that?
So it's, for example, like when our governing body members recuse themselves from the vote when we're awarding a contract. If that council member has a substantial interest in that business, they're part owner, whether it's their family business and it's doing business with the city, and they vote on that without disclosing that, that's when it becomes a conflict of interest and a conduct issue.
It's the should have known that bothers me. Yeah, okay. I mean,
Mr. Arbuckle, you have any weigh in on that?
I mean, once a year, we always verify any kind of substantial interest when we go through our auditing
Right.
procedures. But if anything happens throughout the year that we're unaware of, staff's unaware of, I mean, that governing body member should recuse themselves from that vote.
right. Okay, thank you.
I do want to point out one thing, just in case people that may be watching don't understand. The limits that we have set up in section 3 there is not money that's not already in their budget.
Correct.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that clear that they are given budgeted and that's the amount they can spend out of their budget without approval. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Then in section 12, it outlines the department heads, city administrator are responsible for their allocated budget and not overspending and everything like that.
Great.
I make a motion to approve purchasing policy for the city of Valley Center.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right. Item D, Resolution 704-21, Cedar Ridge Paving Authority.
Hello once again. So we have two resolutions on the agenda tonight for Cedar Ridge. These are project authorization resolutions to construct water and paving improvements within Cedar Ridge that will be assessed through special assessments. So these resolutions authorize the project, authorize the city to go out and obtain financing through temporary notes, finish the construction of the projects, and then eventually assess them to the tax rolls when they're completed.
Councilmember Kerstetter.
This is the one formerly known as Dill Hill, right? All right, thank you.
I'm glad you asked that.
We
I
have
was
so many
going,
going on. I'm trying to get it
Yeah.
straight. Sometimes I'm like, I think that's what. it
I
is.
wasn't sure either.
Yeah. And
Good.
okay, you said that this is a loan to the area, and then it's going to be recouped to us in special taxes. Is that
Right, so it'll be
Okay.
a special assessment district.
okay?
We'll approve the project tonight, which allows us to go obtain funding. We'll pay for the project, and then we'll assess that on the tax rolls through special assessments.
Okay.
And these resolutions outline that it's a 27 lot development, and they will be split equally amongst all the lots. That's
Okay.
how it will be assessed.
I want to make sure it's perfectly clear.
Yep,
Thank you.
and it is 100% paid for by the special assessment district and 0% by the city.
Perfect.
I move to approve Resolution 704-21, authorizing paving improvements to Cedar Ridge Estates Edition.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Excuse me, Resolution 705-21, Cedar Ridge Water Authority.
Same exact resolution, except instead of paving, it says water and the amounts.
I make a motion of approval of Resolution 705-21, authorizing water improvements to the Cedar Ridge Estates Edition.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hands. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving right along, I think this will be Mr. Golka. Water tower rehabilitation bids.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'm excited to present the bid results this evening to you. Last Tuesday, we had a public bid opening for the water tower improvements. We received 10 bids. That's outstanding. You'll notice that contractor number 10 is noted as a no bid. They did not acknowledge all of our contract terms, therefore were not read aloud and not accepted. So 9 accepted bids. The city had $425,000 budgeted. This is interior and exterior coating improvements, including the new logo approved by council at a previous meeting. So very, very excited. You'll notice the top bid, Cunningham, did not leave a lot on the table. Very competitive bids, well under budget. Excited to move forward with this. Cunningham is out of Joplin, Missouri. They are a reputable company, have done a number of water towers, received a lot of positive references. So no concerns there. I will stand for any questions.
There we go. Councilmember Kerstetter.
All right, they know the design we want, right?
Yes.
Okay, I just was.
Explain it. Explain it.
So the speculative response that we received is contractors are very excited. This tower stands a very, very good chance of winning several awards, frankly,
Okay.
for Tower of the Year and Nemec's Water Tower Calendar, to several other nationally recognized publications. So hopefully more to come on that, but speculative. That is the number one item that we've received feedback on as to why the bids are as competitive as they are.
Okay. And you said that it's rehabbing the interior and exterior, correct?
Yes, interior and exterior coating systems.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Motion?
Motion to accept and approve low qualified bid from Cunningham Sandblasting and Painting Company for the water tower rehabilitation in the amount of $265,500.00.
268.
I am sorry. Got dyslexic for a second. $268,500.00.
Second.
I have a motion and seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item G, executive session.
Move For a governing body to recess into executive session to discuss an individual employee's performance pursuant to the non-elected personnel matter exception KSA 75-4319B1. The open meeting will resume in the city council chamber in 10 minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, raise their hand. We'll adjourn to the conference room.
We have returned from executive session. No formal decisions have been made.
Great. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Beautiful. Move on to staff reports. Mr. Schrack. Mr. Owings.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just wanted to give a brief update on the Butterfly Garden, which is being constructed by volunteers just north of the community center and stuff. It's really starting to take shape, and they've been very active back there. They've laid a lot of limestone brick edging and stuff. Right now, they've got a few plants in the ground and stuff, but it's largely being done by volunteers. A very interesting and impressive looking a feature that's going to be on the north end of the patio right outside the community center. Councilmember Anderson and I were just kind of admiring it today while he was there at the building and looking at some of the possibilities and just think it's really going to add a lot to that area and really kind of cap that part of the community center off when it's all finished. So if you get a chance, go walk through there and take a look.
Thank you. So last meeting, I was told I neglected Chief Newman. Well, in my defense of that, since Chief Newman did most of the meeting, I didn't think he had anything else to say, but I did accidentally overstep him last week. It was not on purpose. So Chief Newman.
I didn't have anything else to say that night. Tonight, just a couple of things real quick. This is Fire Prevention Week. So the fire department's going to the schools during the day, and we're having open house at night. So if we get out soon, they're open till 8 tonight, and it'll be open tomorrow night, Thursday night from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. So hopefully you can come out, bring your kids, grandkids. And then this Saturday in Lions Park is the Faith and Blue Weekend. We'll be out there from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So hopefully you can make it out to that as well. Thank you.
Mr. Eggleston. Mr. Golka, anything else? Of course.
Actually, a brief update on Park City this evening. So Park City's Ford Street project, or 77th on their side of the Mason-Dixon. Don Linger is getting ready to wrap up the concrete work, substantial completion towards the end of the month. So we are tracking very closely to opening that intersection, which will be very nice. And then also in a bit of positive news, through WAMPO, we found out that the Meridian projects would be receiving some additional funding. We're still finalizing all the paperwork on that. We'll bring back more information at a subsequent council meeting, but good news, help reduces the city's contribution on those two projects.
And when you say Meridian, you're talking now that they're combined, the whole north and south, both the north and south projects that are now one, really.
Yes, the Main to Fifth, as well as the project south of the railroad tracks to city limits.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Arbuckle. Mr. Smith. Mr. Clark, if you're watching, sorry, bud. All right, we'll move on to the governing body reports. I have nothing. Councilmember Stam.
I have nothing.
Councilmember Evans.
I just wanted to say something to Mr. Golka real quick. You mentioned about how our water tower might be up for some awards or whatnot. I think that's super impressive that we were going to be able to be in that kind of light. Can you just let us know as time continues to see what effects occur? All right, thank you.
Councilmember Davis.
Mr. Eggleston, just had a question from a few residents wanting to know what the status is on finishing the gutters and stuff around town. Okay. Okay. Yeah, the reason it was brought up was like on Third Street. I'm not bringing it up because I live right there, but I had a couple residents asking because after they took all the concrete out for a day and a half, there was concrete chunks and stuff all in the street and everything that didn't get cleaned up and everybody was having to drive around them. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Councilmember Anderson,
No, thank you.
Councilmember Gregory,
Nothing.
Councilmember Kerstetter.
I have something.
All right.
So, great job by the chamber and everybody involved for the parade and the fall festival of activities. It was nice to have it back. It was a nice parade. So, thank you.
Councilmember Wilson.
Nothing to say.
I guarantee you Councilmember Colbert has something. Because he should, because of how close we're getting.
We're getting real close, thank goodness. Yeah, we only got about 2 weeks to go until the moving wall will rise. And after last night's meeting, we had something like about 135 to 140 people volunteered to work the wall. Last night, I believe, was excellent that we did. And I just found out this afternoon, we got another 50 volunteers just in one day's time. So we're going to be over about 175, maybe 200. And that is fantastic work on everybody's part because they spread the word around on their different cities and stuff. Other than that, if there's no other business, make a motion the meeting be adjourned.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Meeting adjourned.